Hello everyone. We are going to discuss the literary or the poetic devices used by P.B. Shelley in his Ode to the West Wind, and also the structure of the West Wind as an ode. As we know that ode is a lyrical poem and a poem that is written for some special occasion, or a poem that speaks to a particular person or a thing. The purpose of an ode is generally to memorize or to celebrate something which is of a great importance or which has a very significant meaning. And the characteristics of an ode are that it is highly solemn and serious in its tone. Its subject matter is also serious, and it is usually written with elaborate patterns of stanzas. Another feature of an ode is its uniform metrical fit, but the poets generally do not strictly follow this rule. But in this ode to the West Wind, Shelley has strictly followed the metrical pattern. So we can conclude that ode is a poetic form that can best be described as a song or a poem which is written in praise of celebration of an object or even a place or an experience. It is positive piece of work, and that today need not be written in meter or rhyme, though a poet may choose to use these devices if he or she wishes. Ode to the West Wind is an ode because it is a rhymed lyric. It is also in the form of an address. It has a dignified subject and style. It is also an elaborated, structured poem. It has musicality in it, and it has been divided into 5 cantos. Each canto has 5 stanzas. The last 2 lines form the couplet, and there are 14 lines in each cantos. Therefore, each is a sonnet made up of 14 lines, and all the stanzas have the same rhyme scheme. So the rhyme scheme of this is A B C, B C B, C D E, D E D, and E E E. Therefore, the form of the poem is consistent in pattern. Because each stanza is 14 lines in strength, uses the same rhyming pattern of ABA, BCB, CDC, DED, and EE. Now, this rhyming scheme is called the Terza Rima, and it was used by Dante in his Divine Comedy. It is an ode because the tone of Shelley in this ode is that of celebration. It includes excitement, pleasure, joy, as well as hope. Shelley draws a parallel between the seasonal cycles of the wind and that of its own ever changing spirit. Here, nature in the form of the wind is presented, according to Abrams, as the outer correspondent to an inner change from apathy to spiritual vitality, and from imaginative sterility to a burst of creative power. So, this poem is about the inspiration that Shelley derives from nature. The breath of autumn being is Shelley's aesthetic version of the Christian Holy Spirit. He does not rely on traditional religion, He focuses his praise around the wind's role in the various cycles of nature, that is, death, regeneration. He calls the wind as preserver as well as destroyer. He begins the poem by praising the wind. Then he personalizes the wind and hopes that it will heed to his plea. He is aware of his own mortality and the immortality of his subject. This drives him to urge the wind that he too can be inspired, and the wind can make him his lyre, and he can be carried, be through my lips to unawakened earth, through land and time. So he moves from objectivity to subjectivity in the end of the ode. It should be noted that in the three-line terza rima stanza, the first and the third lines rhyme and the middle line does not rhyme. But the end sound of that middle line is used as the rhyme for the first and the third lines in the next stanza which follows. The final couplet then rhymes with the middle line of the last three-line stanza. So we can see that Ode to the West Wind follows the rhyme scheme ABA, BCB, CDC, DED and EEE. Sorry, double E. Other literary devices used in Ode to the West Wind include alliteration, personification and apostrophe. Apostrophe is a literary device which refers to a speech or an address to a person who is not present or to a personified object, like Shelley had done to the west wind. He has personified the west wind. It comes from the Greek word apostrophion, which means to turn away. It is an interesting device that is used when the poet's speaker talks to something or someone that cannot either hear him or can't even respond. In this case, the speaker starts the poem by talking to the west wind. O west wind, as though it can do both. In addition to this, the poet personifies the west wind or even gives it human abilities that forces or animals don't naturally have. So, in the poem, a number of times he calls the west wind, he begins the west wind as O wild west wind, and in the second canto he addresses it, thou on whose stream. Again, in the third stanza he begins, thou who didst waken from his summer, dreams, the blue Mediterranean. In the fourth canto, he talks to the west wind. He tells it, oh, lift me as a wave, a leaf, a cloud. I fall upon the thorns of life, I bleed. In the fifth canto, he tells or urges the west wind and says, be thou spirit fierce, my spirit, be thou me, impetuous one. In the end he says, be thou my lips to unawakened earth, the trumpet of prophecy. Thus we see that he is speaking to the west wind, he has personified the west wind, and he has imagined as if the west wind can listen to him. Another device used in this ode is alliteration. Alliteration is a common repetition that appears when the poet repeats the same consonant sound at the beginning of the words. For example, lie and low in line 1 of the stanza 3 of Canto 1, as well as steep sky in stanza 1 of Canto 2. Another literary technique is enjambment. It occurs several times in Ode to the West Wind. For example, the transition between line 2 and 3 of stanza 1, Canto 1, as well as lines 2 and 3 of stanza 3, Canto 1. So, enjambment is a thought or a clause that does not come to end at a line break. It moves over to the next line. For example, cleave themselves into chasm while far below. The next line follows, the sea blooms and the oozy woods which were. Then the next line is, the sapless foliage of the ocean now. Sorry, no. Alliteration is also used in the poem. It is the repetition of consonant sounds in the same line, such as the sounds of W in O wild west wind, thou breath of autumn's being, and G sound in thy voice and suddenly grow grey with fear. He uses similes also. Simile is a figure of speech used to compare an object or a person with something else. There are a number of similes which we have discussed while we were studying the text. So I'll give you an example again. For example, are driven like ghosts from an enchanter fleeing, or each like a corpse within its grave, is used for the seeds. Loose clouds like earth's decaying leaves are shed. Clouds are compared to the decaying leaves of the earth. Then there is symbolism. He has used a number of symbols to signify ideas and qualities, giving them a symbolic meaning. That is, a meaning which is different from the literal meaning. West wind symbolizes the mighty power of nature. Similarly, dead leaves are in the symbols of death and destruction, and the dying year is a symbol of the end of the autumn season. Then he uses imagery also. Imagery is used to make the readers see or perceive things with their five senses. For example, Shelley uses dark wintry bed and yellow and black and pale and hectic red. Also, another imagery is angels of rain and lightning. These are the examples of visual imagery used by Shelley. Other images like trumpet of a prophecy, black rain and fire and hail will burst, and her clarion are examples of auditory imagery. In the same way, wild spirits which art moving everywhere. Another one, scatter as from an unextinguished hearth, ashes and sparks. These are the examples of kinetic imagery. Thus we see that Shelley has used terza rima, which is a 3-line stanza in which first and the last line rhyme, and stanza is a poetic form of some lines. This poem is divided into 5 cantos with 23 stanzas in it. There are 4 tercets in each canto and 1 couplet in each canto. Thank you.